This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Stick around to hear more about the online learning community and their exclusive offer through this channel. Okay, today is going to be a pretty crazy topic because we are once again discussing Tencent, China, and gaming regulation. Why are we discussing this? Simply put, because it's a dystopian nightmare and it's only getting worse. Those are strong words, I get it. Someone new to the channel might hear that and say, okay, enough with the hyperbole, it's not a dystopian nightmare, just relax. But no, I assure you, it's an actual dystopian nightmare, and today we're going to examine start to finish how China has created a death grip on its domestic gaming market, and how that death grip might actually expand over time. It all starts in 2017. Actually 2016, but it wasn't codified into officially referenced law until 2017. June 1st, 2017, the People's Republic of China passes a suite of new cybersecurity guidelines aimed at subjugating tech companies and controlling the flow, storage, and usage of online data in the country. These guidelines are an absolute nightmare for the companies that they affect, but they produce a couple of key desired effects for the government. For starters, massaged into this bill by an authoritarian party, there were stipulations that companies must submit for data spot checks, and those spot checks could be used for a multitude of nefarious purposes depending solely on the discretion of the CCP. In addition, this new data storage mandate would also synergize, quite well I might add, with a governmental mandate that all companies of a particular size and scope must have an official CCP office contained within them that would serve as a compliance arm for the government's domestic agenda. In simple terms, for the past 4 to 5 years, the government has been expanding its control inside the corporate structure of domestic giants like Alibaba, Baidu, and Tencent. Alibaba is basically a competitor to Amazon, Baidu is effectively a competitor for Google, and Tencent is a massive gaming conglomerate that has measurable percentage ownership in over a dozen major global development and/or publishing companies, including Epic Games, Riot Games, Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, Bluehole, and even Discord. But what's next? Because while troubling, yes, probably, and perhaps less than ideal, at least, that's far from a dystopian nightmare on its face. Well, next, with all data required to be housed locally inside mainland China, spot check parameters set out which make things significantly more accessible to the government, and CCP offices required by law to help enforce oversight within a corporate structure, China decided that it wanted to regulate the world of online video games. The effort started in 2018. During August, the Chinese Ministry of Education released new guidance aimed at curbing the alarming levels of myopia in children, myopia being a clinical diagnosis for nearsightedness. Interestingly, myopia levels in China are significantly higher than in other countries, such as the United States. In Guangzhou, China, for example, the relative levels of myopia in 12-year-olds is almost 50%, whereas across the greater United States, it is less than half that number, standing at roughly 20%. China had taken a very real problem and claimed a causal link between that problem and mobile phone gaming. Mobile phone gaming is one of the primary markets in China, greater by far than any other platform. Once they had stated a causal link and also simultaneously spun up state-run propaganda networks to begin calling popular video games poison, quote, and referring to them as drugs, again, a quote, a statement echoed more recently with very large market repercussions, but more on that later. Once they had stated an unproven causal link, they could start to attack the problem, and that's in air quotes there, the problem, and that's where we get to the actual authoritarian dystopia. Before that though, this video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is a huge online learning community that is built for the benefit of its users. They don't have ads in their classes, they don't have filler content, just dedicated courses on pretty much anything you can think of. For me personally, the video editing section has been incredibly valuable. As an example, there's a course called Making the Most of Stock Footage by Nikki Stevens, where I can learn strategies to better incorporate the stock footage I already use in a beneficial way. I would never have really thought to look something like that up, but scrolling the video editing directory on Skillshare, I learned about a whole bunch of different ways that I can enhance my own videos and improve the content drastically. Skillshare is built for all different levels of talent, from casual to hobbyist and even professional. And when you join, you can try out a Skillshare live class, which takes on a whole new dynamic in the online learning arena. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link down below in the description will get a 1-month completely free trial of Skillshare, so you can start exploring today. Again, the link down below will give the first 1,000 users a 1-month free trial so they can explore the site. Big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring the channel. And I also did learn a lot, and hopefully it will show up in the videos in the near future. All the stuff that I learned for video editing and content creation and all sorts of just visual stuff. Now that China had a problem and a cause, they needed to regulate that cause in order to solve the initial problem. It started, and that's the key word here, started with a curfew for gaming and a daily time limit regulation of 90 minutes. The curfew would begin at roughly 10 o'clock p.m. and extend 10 hours to 8 o'clock a.m. This mandate was proposed as a solution to what was seen as a myopic epidemic in the country, and also had the intended or unintended side effect of wiping out over $20 billion in market cap off the board for multiple separate companies. Synergizing with this, in the preceding year, China had halted new game approvals for an extended period of time, thereby reducing the number of popular titles available in the country by a hefty margin, and consolidating the number of companies who controlled them to a more manageable few. The government had officially deemed video games as an addictive drug, and was treating them with extreme hostility when it came to regulation and enforcement. So what came next? Well, after the curfew and daily limits were imposed, that's when we get to the real dystopia. Tencent, compelled to enforce a governmental authoritarian decree upon its users, enforced by internal CCP offices and far-reaching security/data regulations from prior years, rolled out a comprehensive facial recognition program that would actively scan the faces of anyone playing their games and lock out children under a certain age or after a certain hour. This also came with purchasing limits, such as a monthly budget for mobile games allowed by the Communist Party, and it also marked another sell-off in the Chinese markets, wiping out billions in value for major companies like Tencent and NetEase. The feature is called Midnight Patrol, and made its debut during mid-2021. In an official statement put out by Tencent themselves, they stated, quoted and translated, "Children, put your phones away and go to sleep." Hopefully my claim of a dystopian nightmare feels a lot less like hyperbole now, because the systematic facial scanning of users during nighttime hours to enforce automatic shutoff for electronic programs because they are violating a gaming curfew, or probably might be violating a gaming curfew, that's dystopian. According to Tencent's own press release, quote, "As of June 2021, an average of 5.8 million accounts have triggered facial recognition verification during the login process, and 28,000 accounts during the payment process every day." That's almost 6 million people per day who are being scanned through their device simply for playing a video game in order to enforce a governmental order. And all of that data is required to be stored on domestic servers with mandated access for the CCP and an office in that same company designed specifically to compel their cooperation in state-ordered affairs. That is an actual dystopian nightmare. Flash forward, and the gaming death grip held by the Chinese government has not retracted at all or released. It has only tightened. In early August of 2021, August 3rd to be exact, the stock price for Tencent plunged yet again after a state-run media outlet referred to video games as opium for the mind. Over $60 billion in market cap from Tencent alone was obliterated, and this would continue what is now a many-month almost free fall for tech stocks in China, specifically gaming-related tech stocks, as the government tightens its grip on the industry. Tencent vowed new efforts to regulate the market immediately after the article was published, and though that article has since actually been removed, likely as a direct response to the insane losses resulting from it, it contained the following quote while it was still available. "Spiritual opium has grown into an industry worth hundreds of billions. No industry, no sport can be allowed to develop in a way that will destroy a generation." End quote. That is incredibly aggressive from a state-run media outlet, when the state controls the businesses that the industry is built on. That would ring like a declaration of impending execution if we realize that the CCP, after a multi-year stretch of tightening its grip over and over and over, absolutely does control the gaming sector in China, and absolutely could kill it outright. Even if the government does not ultimately kill the sector, which could very well happen, despite now classifying gaming as the culprit in a nearsighted epidemic, a spiritual drug, an addictive activity, and imposing strict curfew/spending limits on the hobby, even if they don't kill it outright, they have already caused a selling spree for some of their most powerful technology companies, which leaves them at an almost 50% stock price deficit when compared to just 6 months ago. It remains to be seen exactly how many new efforts Tencent will make to kill its own business model at request of the government, which definitely isn't actually a request, but so far in the immediate aftermath of the most recent state media attack, they have vowed to outright ban children under 12 years old from making any purchases in games, and also refine the restriction on minors to 60 minutes a day, down from 90 minutes previously. In my opinion, if you really think something is spiritual opium, 60 minutes of a highly addictive substance versus 90 minutes of a highly addictive substance isn't really going to save you, but maybe that's just me. Control comes at a cost, and for China, that cost is growth. Now, many people might even agree with these regulations and view video games to be a harmful activity for the modern youth. I would agree wholeheartedly when it comes to monetization tactics and the usage of predatory gambling mechanics specifically to hook underage children. But what I don't think anyone should be advocating for is governmental device and gaming curfews backed by facial recognition scanning, which then feeds into domestically located and governmentally controlled data storage. for usage by the CCP however and whenever they please. That is an actual dystopian nightmare, and hopefully by now we all see what is and is not hyperbole. That's it. I know full well, and nobody has to tell me this down in the comment section unless you really want to, but I know full well that the United States and other markets have their own authoritarian struggles and policies. Social media, surveillance, whatever it is. But for today, I want to focus on the nearly 6 million daily facial scans just to regulate and control who is and is not playing a phone game during a specific time. That's insane. If you want to support, there are links down below. You can watch my entire content library on Odyssey. You can get totally ad-free versions of all of the videos in the audio podcast format on Locals for $5 a month. It's like Patreon, but better, to help offset when the channel gets demonetized for trash-talking China and quoting a statement about opium repeatedly. Who knows? Maybe it won't get demonetized. Not sure, but whatever. You can check the link to Skillshare down below in the description, or check out another gaming YouTuber as well, plus merch and whatever else, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.